This is Peter.
And this is Tom.
And you're listening to History Teachers Talking Podcasts. All right, this is Peter Zablocki and Thomas Reska, and welcome back to our podcast. Tom, what do we got?
Well, what we're looking at today is one of the biggest mysteries out there, right? I guess you can say that, or mystery of why it happened, or mystery place, but it's definitely a item that people definitely heard of, an area people heard of one way or another, and that's the Bermuda Triangle, or the Devil's Triangle, as it's often also known as.
Really? You know what's funny?
Yes.
I did all this research for this. I never saw it.
Never saw it. That's what a lot of people call it, actually, the Devil's Triangle. And it's basically this, imaginary triangular area, right, on the western part of the North Atlantic, where a lot of ships, planes allegedly disappeared over the past centuries. Located about off the southeastern coast of the United States, more or less.
Exactly. So the far left, think of it as a triangle that's kind of turned on its side to the left, and the far end corner on the left is Miami, and then the top corner on the right is Bermuda, and then the bottom right corner is Puerto Rico, right? San Juan, Puerto Rico?
Yeah, and you'll see it and stuff like that. I mean, as far as if you Google it and everything, but there's no official map that shows the boundaries of the triangle.
Because it's not official. And that's
it's not official. The U.S. Board on Geographic Names and the U.S. Navy, they don't even recognize it.
Nope.
As something real. I guess we'll talk about that, because a lot of it...
It's not real.
No. I mean, it's real. People believe it. Whether or not it's actually... what they say it is, stuff like that. No, probably not. But I remember hearing about it a lot when I was growing up and freaking out. I used to watch that show, In Search Of. And they used to always show, or that Unsolved Mysteries, right? And they used to always show, the Bermuda Triangle. I'd always be freaked out if I get sucked into it, even though I lived in New Jersey.
I was going to say.
Sucked into Bermuda Triangle somehow. Where are these people going? And you're like, oh, there's UFOs there. Not quite, but.
Although that is one of the theories. That is one of the theories.
There's a whole bunch of theories out there. Some are more plausible than others, but then the real plausible ones we'll get to. But I guess first we'll just talk about a little bit, give a little bit of background information on the Bermuda Triangle, how it emerged and where it came from.
Sounds good. And by the way, you're right. Devil's Triangle is the name of the book that kind of started this myth, right? Yeah,
I know I'm right. You don't have to, but thank you.
I know you're right. I appreciate it. Stop it. All right.
I appreciate it.
So the Bermuda Triangle, that's what we are talking about today. So the Bermuda Triangle, as you said, is basically this mythical section in the Atlantic Ocean that supposedly where ships and airplanes go to, they disappear. Now, we know for a fact, because statistics don't usually lie unless they're skewed, that particular area to this day is one of the busiest areas in the Atlantic Ocean for shipping.
And that's one reason why you're going to have
more than accidents. Yeah.
Accidents or things vanishing, right? But if you also look, not only does it is a major shipping lane, but also between 1851 and 2019, you can just look at the number of storms that have passed through this area called the Bermuda Triangle because of the Gulf Stream and stuff there. It has a lot of that, the hot water, warm water, whatever, it causes a lot of these storms and cyclones and stuff in that area. So that's always an issue with it too. You have a lot of these storms. And we'll get to some reporting. And a lot of the reporting of the missing vessels was also false, which we'll get to.
Yep. So I mean, I guess let's kind of talk about or let's start with the legend, right? So the Bermuda Triangle, or the Devil's Triangle, as you mentioned, it's about roughly 500,000 square miles. Off the coast of Florida. We're not, again, because it's never been designated as a specific place. We don't know exactly how many miles we're talking, but apparently Christopher Columbus sailed through this area when he was coming to the New World, and he had supposedly, this is from some of the old historians,
a great flame in the sky, right? That's what it's worried about.
A meteor,
a lot of people, probably just a meteor. And what a lot of people who support the Bermuda Triangle see, it's not a modern day thing. It's been around since Columbus, but not so. That's kind of the only one they're really talking about it. He wrote about how his compass got erratic during this time, right?
That was interesting too, right? Because that comes up even today. And there's an explanation for that, which we'll get into later.
It's one of the few places, we'll just get to it now. It's one of the few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north actually line up. And they said, people today would be more aware of that, or scientists and geographers, they would be more aware of that. But back then, not necessarily as much. That the magnetic North Poles kind of line up that way. So they'd be kind of freaked out. And if you go there, your compass will kind of
Start going
be
nuts. Yeah.
go a little erratic just because of that's how it works.
Yep.
Modern day instruments, it's not going to be an issue, and most navigators would kind of be able to know what they're doing also
Yep.
at that point.
Well, but that's kind of what, the idea is that that's what a lot of people that believe in the Bermuda Triangle ithiness kind of point to this
Well,
example
they're going to look
here.
for something to support their answer.
Yeah, like this happened here at some point, right? It really doesn't garner any of public's attention until mid 20th century, really. Oh, not even
Yeah,
mid. Let's say early. Yeah, early 20th century.
the 50s, 1952, right? We'll get
Yeah,
right
but
to it, right?
1918, USS Cyclops.
Well, you're always going to have things disappearing there, but when they start talking about the actual
Oh, you're right. As in,
Bermuda
like,
Triangle,
something's fishy. Yeah,
as to
gotcha.
something's fishy, you think the Cyclops, right? You have a couple other ones that disappear in that area too, which I guess we can talk about those when we
Yeah,
get
I
to
mean,
that a
like,
little bit.
so the very first tragedy that we know for a fact that is mysterious enough to kind of garner this attention, but again, it's not really referred to as anything that deals with the Bermuda Triangle. It's later attributed to have happened because it happened in the Bermuda Triangle. And that was in March of 1918. It was a USS Cyclops. It was a 542-foot long Navy cargo ship. And it actually had about 300 men and 10,000 tons of ore on board, right?
And
And
they think
it's
that's what probably sunk it,
Yep, yep, that's what I
the
read
metal
as well.
ore.
But they said like the fact is that this ship was really high tech for its time. This is around World War One time, and it could send out an SOS distress signal, but it didn't do so. It just kind of just went into the area, and then poof, it disappears. Right, extensive search to this day finds no wreckage whatsoever. Woodrow Wilson actually is quoted by saying, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." And then in 1941, I don't know if you saw this, two of the Cyclops sister ships similarly vanished without trace along nearly
Yeah,
the
well,
same route.
they were carrying the same stuff.
Yep,
They were carrying this metal ore, and they think it was denser than what the ship was designed to carry,
yep.
and that's probably could have led to it sinking.
And
But
it's
yeah,
gone. Like we haven't found these ships, right? So
well,
that's
what it is true about the Bermuda Triangle is it is one of in that area. It is some of the deepest spots on Earth. So the underwater topography of that area, right?
yeah,
It goes to like slopey, and then it kind of just drops off. So some of the deepest trenches in the world are found in that Bermuda Triangle area. That's why so many of the ships or planes they probably sink to these trenches. They're never going to be found. That's it.
yep.
So that's another reason why they're going to say, "Oh yeah, it's Atlantis."
There's
Before
also
they can-
the well, that's the Atlantis. Well, we'll get into that, but because I figure we'll talk about some of the notable incidents, and then we'll go back and be like, let's explain some of this to the best of our ability. But there was also the HMS Atlanta, right?
Mhm.
Which no, yeah, I would think it was Atlanta or Atlanta. It was like spelled weirdly, but originally named HMS Juno, and it disappeared with their entire crew after sailing, from Royal Naval dockyards in England, and it was presumed same thing that it kind of disappears in this area due to a powerful storm of some kind. But um, worldwide attention. This is like 1878. So this is even before the Cyclops, and
Yeah,
they never found it.
again, ships are going to disappear. Ships vanish. Going through this area, that's going to happen.
Yep.
So there are records of it happening ahead of time. And that's obviously what a lot of these pro Bermuda Triangle individuals, or whatever you want to call them, all right, or support this theory that there's something going on there, are going to pull attention to. But the name Devil's Triangle, the name Bermuda's Triangle, really starts to catch attention in 1952, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what you saw. George Sand wrote an article in this like American Fate magazine, which
Mm-hmm.
deals with paranormal, pseudoscience, whatever you want to call it. And he wrote about incidents about Flight 19, which was a
That was a
training
big deal.
flight
Yep.
of, yeah, it was a big deal. You had these 5 torpedo bombers planes all went missing during a routine training mission in 1945. They never returned. Some of the search parties that went looking for them also totally vanished, right?
Yeah, but
And
even
the
and the
article
thing
was
is,
entitled "See Mystery at Our Back Door," and it kind of
yeah,
hinted at paranormal in this area.
yeah. An interesting thing, as you mentioned, is this is a training mission of these 5 airplanes, and supposedly they went in on this training mission, as you said, and then poof, we never see them again. But the help they sent for them was a ship. It was actually not. They didn't send
Yeah,
any more airplanes. They sent a ship, and that ship also disappeared in the same area within this supposed triangle. And that's what this guy writes about.
yeah.
And this
So
happens
I
in
mean,
45, right? 45.
45, yeah.
Yep.
And then they're saying what comes out later on is that there was probably faulty navigation,
Hmm.
like planning wise for the planes anyway. They ran out of gas.
Or
and that's probably what
compasses,
happened
and
with
the
them.
compasses might have malfunctioned. I saw
And
that.
yeah, and then the ship they think it ran into a storm.
Yep.
But
Fishy,
so,
fishy.
so that
No pun
starts
intended.
happening. Yeah, and then you had 64. Vincent Gales also writes. He's the first one that writes about the deadly Bermuda Triangle. Actually, calls it that in a pulp magazine. And then he was the first to define the boundaries of the triangle. He mentioned Flight 19, a bunch of other incidents of disappearances that all fall into this pattern of strange events, and then um, became an entitled book. The article led to a book, and they named it Invisible Horizon, and that really talks about this Bermuda Triangle. That's really, I guess, pop culture wise, part of like Americana was in the 60s.
And and in these books, they write about other incidents as well. I mean, they talk about there's at least 3 passenger planes that went down in within that area. Um, and apparently, as they were coming in, they were sending in messages to air towers that everything's going well, and then again disappeared.
And nothing, yeah.
This kind of becomes something that people start talking about, specifically because it goes into pop culture at the time.
Well, yeah,
Um,
it becomes even bigger than in the 70s,
yeah,
right? I'm sure you saw that, where they actually there was a book that actually published and it sold over 20 million copies. Excuse me, a bunch of
it was
different
made into a
languages.
movie,
Yeah,
right?
made to a movie, Bermuda Triangle. I think they show on like Twilight Zone, all that type of stuff, and
Yeah,
that's when it really becomes connecting to the paranormal, the lost city of Atlantis, then extraterrestrial. There's aliens there, right? That
yeah,
sort of thing. So that's really when that starts to explode and it becomes like big time pop culture. And
yep.
then people are always wondering what's going on. That's when you can start seeing like you can go. I know if you fly through that area, because my mom had a shirt of it, like it says I survived the Bermuda Triangle.
Nah.
You got like a T-shirt. Like I was like, oh, and then as a kid, I was like, I don't get it. I thought if you fly through it, you just like get sucked up. And they're like, my dad was like, no, that's
No.
not how it works. So,
Stop reading science fiction.
so
Nonetheless, right? There's and a lot of other things started being once this came out, people started looking backwards and like attributing other
other
disappearances
things,
that
yeah,
like the Deering, Carol Deering, this was a freaky thing. It was an old ship from 1919, sail ship that was found aground and abandoned actually in North Carolina. And the FBI investigation, you couldn't figure it out, like what happened to it because
how to get there.
yeah, the ship was found aground completely empty in North Carolina, like nobody there. And the idea was like, well, again, this was the first Red Scare. Some people are like, was it communist sabotage? And others were like, no, like this ship was clearly, later on as these books came out 30 years later, it was like this ship was definitely at the Bermuda Triangle, and basically all the people that were on it disappeared, and this ship just by itself made its way to North Carolina. Clearly not. I mean, it could be an explanation. Why not, right?
Well, they have, yeah. I mean, you have a whole bunch of this natural explanations, right? You're saying the compass variation we talked about, the
Yeah,
Gulf Stream. The same, probably the most common one could be just human error in the area.
yeah.
Like, a lot of times they say people get stubborn. They believe that they can ride out a storm or something like that, and it's not really going to happen. And there's a lot of powerful, violent weather, a lot of hurricanes and stuff in that part of the world. That's also going to lead to, just shipwrecks and things of that happening.
Well, there's the other one, the Connemara 4 in 1955. Same premise, right? The crew vanished. They found this yacht, and it survived at sea. Apparently, it survived 3 hurricanes, but there was not a single crew member on board in 1950s. Same premise. They're like, maybe because it came from there. And then Douglas DC-3, there was an aircraft that was a flight from San Juan, Puerto Rico to Miami. 32 people on board, never found. Um, the Civil Aeronautics Board investigation found that there was insufficient information. Although those planes are kind of not so reliable. I'm going to do a
Yeah, I
plug
think they were
here.
also. They said they had them like operating at like the limit of their like
Capacity.
abilities.
Yeah, and
Yeah, they were
these
kind
are
of like
terrible. I mean, I
pushing
wrote.
them as best they could, and
Yeah,
kind of again human error. Like you're pushing
yeah.
something to its brink, and then something can happen,
Plus,
especially in an area like that.
I in the newest book I wrote, there's a plug. Um, Terror over Elizabeth. I wrote about airplane crashes, and one of the airplane crashes that happened around this very same time, actually within 2 years, over in New Jersey, was a DC-3 plane, and it was referred to as flying coffin because apparently it crashed so much. So
That's
that might
great.
have something to do with it, right? Imagine
I'm
getting on
sure
that
I'm
plane.
sure it does. Yeah, the flying coffin. Yeah, it's definitely a plane you want to jump on
Nice,
board.
nice. All right, so let's let's talk about some natural explanations here, and then maybe we'll talk about some. We'll talk about natural and then paranormal. I mean, which one you want to hit up first? And then I'm
I think
thinking,
we kind of talked. We talked about some of the natural ones, right? I guess let's get to some of the.
well, we did mention compass variations, right? Because of the
Was it
magnetic
compass? We
poles.
talked about the weather, human error, right? There was one other. There was one other one that I saw a lot, which was something
Well,
to
the
do with the
Gulf Stream
climate.
was kind of cool.
The Gulf Stream, yeah. Well, we mentioned that briefly, but if you want to
Yeah. Basically,
dive
they're
into that
saying that
again, go ahead.
just because I found it fascinating looking into it. It's basically a surface current that's driven by this circulation that originates in the Gulf of Mexico. So as it kind of builds up in the Gulf of Mexico, it then flows out of the Gulf back into the Atlantic Ocean through like the Straits of Florida, and essentially is described as like a river within an ocean, and it like just
Yeah, it's gonna push all over the place.
carries
Yeah,
floating objects, right? Oftentimes, this leads to a lot of different ships having issues, having trouble because of how quickly this current carries them. And they said that this happens right through this supposed Bermuda Triangle, which I thought was kind of cool.
yeah.
Paranormal, there's some cool ones in here. I guess we could
Well,
talk
one
about
of
some of them.
natural one that I think is interesting is the methane hydrates. Did you see these?
Nope.
It's this form of natural gas, right? There's a lot of it in that area, and it creates these because of the continental shelves and stuff in the area. And they did actually these experiments carried out in Australia have proven that if this happens, it can actually done it on scale models, and I believe it can probably happen on a large level too. It changes the destiny of the water. They call them almost like mud volcanoes. You have these methane eruptions, and
Hmm.
it produces this like frothy water, and the water is no longer capable of like allowing the ships to be buoyant. So
Okay.
if this happens in like a really large area and the ship is stuck in it, it's just going to drop. It's just going to sink very rapidly and without warning. Like I said, they've done this in the laboratory. They haven't actually seen it happen naturally, all right? But they know it can based on the levels and stuff like that. So that anything that was floating on it is no longer buoyant because the water doesn't support it anymore because of all this like froth in the gas and it just drops.
Wow.
So that would
That's
be
kind of cool.
something, but then that kind of goes into paranormal because then people also say, well, yeah, that's because that's like a Atlantean
All right.
defense
So, yeah, let's get into
mechanism.
it because that's a big
So
one.
yeah,
The mythical lost continent of Atlantis.
yeah, why not? Go
All
ahead.
right. So, a
It
lot of
also has to
these,
do with the flat Earth, right? I think something
right?
to do, right.
That is in there. So a lot of the supernatural concepts kind of that try to explain these events look into plethora of different things, but a lot of them kind of tie back to this mythical lost continent, right, of Atlantis. And the story is actually connected through the submerged rock formation that was found called the Bimini Road, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Bimini Road, right?
I
Um,
think so.
or the Bimini Wall. It's basically an underwater rock formation near
Yeah,
North Bimini Island on the Bahamas. And
you
the
can
road
see it
consists,
there. Yeah,
yeah, and it consists of about like half a mile long northeast southwest linear feature, right? Rectangular sub kind of rectangular limestone blocks, and people believe that that is proof that that road, this Muni Road in the Bahamas, was the location of this mythical city of Atlantis. And therefore, the idea is that what's happening in the Bermuda Triangle is you're actually above the sunken Atlantis. So therefore, there was like that,
whole bunch of
supernatural
stuff going
aura,
on. Yeah.
right? Um, what else do you have in there?
Well, you have we have obviously everything. If we talk about Atlantis, you have the idea that it's a hotbed for aliens.
Yeah, I did see that
That
one. Something
there's a lot
UFO
of
related, right?
extraterrestrial area over there. That it's like a whole bunch of things. It's like a meeting point, or that it's just a spot. Because again, they tie that in with Atlantis also being like, well, the aliens are visiting Atlantis because they used to visit Atlantis where it was above the water, so they're still going to Atlantis under the water, right? And all the other
Yeah.
stuff. And because they say that if you look up, it does have a very high um, rate in that area. They said of reported UFOs. They're just unidentified, flying objects and stuff like that. But
Yep.
obviously, that doesn't
Well,
mean
actually,
that
if you
there's
read up on it,
little green men there. But that's a
yeah.
big net you're seeing there too. Then you have
No,
the go with that
no.
one.
So I'm saying I've read everything from like sea monsters, time warps,
See,
reverse
the time
gravity
warps.
fields.
There's the idea that it's transporting people to like another dimension. When you're flying through that, you're going to an alternate reality. It's like a ripple in time type of thing.
What was that movie? The Pearl Harbor movie where they get sucked into
The
the Bermuda
Philadelphia
Triangle.
experiment, right, or something like that.
No, they get sucked. It wasn't that. They get sucked into maybe they get sucked into the Bermuda Triangle and they come out like on the eve of Pearl Harbor with the
Yeah,
United
no, I think that's like
States.
the Philadelphia
That was quite a movie. And they're like,
experiment.
there's that big dilemma: like, will they change the course of history or not? Because they have, obviously modern. weapons on this.
Yeah, and they had the knowledge. What do you
Oh
do?
man, I actually like that movie. That was a pretty cool movie. One of those like Saturday morning Channel 11 movies.
Yeah, it was just there. Yeah, threw it together.
All
Didn't
right,
have some
so
actors in it though. Anyway,
it did. From what I remember, I think one of the Sheens was in there. I might have been the
yeah,
father.
yeah, I think you're right.
Bermuda Triangle, just so we're on the same page, although it does have all these storms and all that stuff, United States Coast Guard basically says it is not by any means any more hazardous of a place than any other place in the world when it comes to oceans. And they also said that in review, and this is quoting U.S. Coast Guard, in a review of many aircraft and vessel losses in the area over the years, there has been nothing discovered that would indicate that casualties were the result of anything other than physical causes. No
Yeah,
extraordinary factors have been
there's been a whole
identified.
bunch of different like reports, and I think one came out even 2013 saying that yeah, like a lot of these reports were probably like they report a lot of missing vessels, but then they didn't report if any of the vessels were found. Like as far as like they did come back to port and
Mm-hmm.
okay and stuff like that. That there were a lot of references where they said, "Oh, this person died," when actually no, they didn't.
Yeah.
That a lot of times they said there wasn't a storm; it was clear weather. That's not true. Like even Flight 19 with those Avengers, they said that it was a clear day, and if you look back at the flight conditions, no, it wasn't. They said the weather was actually very bad, and there were 49-foot waves going on in that area reported. So
Geez,
like I'll have
imagine
to see that
49-foot
imagine 49
waves.
foot waves, yeah. So there was a lot of crazy weather and stuff like that going on.
Oh my
There was
God. Dude, I
actually
can't imagine it.
yeah. So they have all of these things. You have people that will go down there and look for the scuba divers that go in that general area, and they say that it's all normal down there. There's nothing different. There's no Atlantis down there. There's no UFOs and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that's just some of the things that are out there. But yeah, they've actually come out and said it's basically just a modern day myth, right? Kind of like a lot of the authors wrote about it, kind of became sensationalized. There were these tragedies there. People definitely died there, but it's not any more than what there is anywhere else in the world where you're having this, like, basically, because you said before, Pete, it's just like a lot of shipping lanes. There's a lot of stuff going
Yeah,
on there.
absolutely.
Kind of is a little bit depressing. So I remember this was like this big deal when I was growing up. I remember being like a little obsessed with the Bermuda Triangle to a certain degree, like fear wise. And now I'm like, oh, there's really like nothing there
And now you're
whatsoever.
like, dang it. It's only going to be like a 25-minute podcast episode.
Yeah, it's like the extent of what I can do for like the
Mwah,
beer
mwah, mwah.
podcast. My
Um,
childhood fears.
the, and also why it's actually been in your childhood fears. If you start looking at Bermuda Triangle through pop culture, I started looking it up, and I mean, especially in the 70s when his 60s and 70s when his book came out, and that was when it was the biggest thing. Although we weren't born yet, I guess it transferred over to the 80s. But Fleetwood Mac's Bermuda Triangle, 1974. That's right, their ninth album has a song that's called Bermuda Triangle. Then you have Barry Manilow saying Bermuda Triangle. It was apparently a big hit in Europe. Um, at one point it goes like, if you go to like Bermuda Triangle with your lady, she might disappear with another dude. Like, okay, cool, cool, cool. There was an ABC TV movie starring Kim Novak as the sole survivor that was found aboard this like spooky ship that apparently came from the Bermuda Triangle. Then you have Airport 77, a disaster movie from the 70s. There's a lot of disaster movies from this. We should do a
Yeah, that's
podcast
like what they
on
did. Remember,
disaster
like
movies
yeah,
from
like
the 1970s.
earthquake, the towering inferno, all those
Yeah,
types of movies.
Poseidon Adventure. I mean, geez. This one had Airport 77 had like Jimmy Stewart, Jack Lemmon, Christopher Lee, I mean, there's like, I look into this, like everyone's in this movie. And then, actually a lot of these disaster movies had everyone in them. It's
That's what they did, like an ensemble cast. Yeah,
crazy. Then you have the Bermuda Triangle Game by Milton Bradley in 1974. Yeah, you
board
move
games
like
for
plastic
children's.
ships. I know you move like plastic ships across the board, in like this like fog cloud. Um, it's basically it's like you try your best not to foul up everyone's voyage. It's pretty interesting. But apparently it has really cool game art like on the box. So I need to look into this. But just to show you how like big this was, and even so, this makes sense. Bermuda Triangle game for Atari 2600 from 1982. And it says like the premise is that beneath the Bermuda Triangle lies a lost city filled with treasures that you and your trusty mini sub must gather to bring to surface. But you have to be aware of like the giant squid and apparently like the hungry shark and explosive and like rival ships and everything else. But crazy. And then there was a Scooby Doo episode, the creepy
Oh, I'm sure
tangle
that was
in the
Scooby
Bermuda
Doo. All those
Triangle.
shows had episodes and stuff like that. I remember,
So
like something going through there and things like that. And
But that makes sense,
comic
like
books
why
and
we are
stuff.
so like why we remember it as being so like mysterious
But it's
because
part of we were kids during that time. It
Atari
was
and
part of
Scooby Doo, man, and
this
even Wonder
timeline
Woman.
pop culture, and then that
There's
was it. This became
Wonder
part of
Woman
it. Yeah,
show, Bermuda Triangle Crisis, 1977. Anyway, that's all I
you
got.
got to do it.
Um,
What do you think? Do you think it's just a bunch of folklore and just modern day myths, or you think there's something to it? You think there's aliens there? I know you think the world is flat, so
yeah, I totally think. Yeah,
I don't know.
of
I
course.
just threw it out there, guys. I'm
I
sorry.
know. Seriously,
I'm
what?
going to totally destroy
What's up?
your author career now.
My credibility here. What are you doing, man?
No, he is not a flat earther. He is not a flat earther.
Is that a thing? Are people
He
called
just
flat
he
Earth?
just believes in Bigfoot. That's all.
Wait, hold up. There's people. There's a term like flat earthers.
You never heard of flat earthers before?
No one
Yeah.
can believe that.
Yes, there are a lot of people. We're going to get
Although, you know
if
what?
you don't edit this out of the podcast, there are going to be people that are going to email us about it.
You think? Yeah, I mean, I didn't know there's people that. I mean, then again, there's people that believe the Holocaust never happened, and
So
they exist. So I guess
people believe anything.
you're right. I guess someone that believes that Earth is flat, maybe that's a thing too. Well, I'm not one of those people. Just saying. Just throwing that out there. And you've train of thought, bro. You just totally killed it. I forgot what I was gonna say, and you weren't paying attention either because you just wanted to get your pun in. See, so you don't even you can't even
No,
remind
I
me.
was
where
paying attention. We said, is there anything else? I was asking you if you believe.
Oh,
Where do you
see,
go with it?
that's all right. Cool. All right. So the answer is I don't know. I don't really think about it that much. I mean, I think there's a lot of mysterious things in this world that cannot really be explained with logic, and therefore, because of that, they kind of breed some supernatural explanations. But I'm not here to judge if someone believes in
People
that.
want to know. People want to know like the answer. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
want to know. All right, what happened? And there's the answer to some of these things you're just not going to know. Like if you weren't there, you're just it's one of those mysteries that like you're just not going to know. These ships, there's weather patterns. There's whoever knows what else going on. The aliens or Atlantis is a bit far fetched, obviously.
Right. Well, that's it, guys, for our short podcast on the Bermuda Triangle. So thank you once more for tuning in every week. We appreciate it. If you need to find us, you can find us at www.historyteacherstalkingpodcast.com. Please feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast. We do greatly appreciate those. And I hope you guys have an amazing week. See you next week.
Stay safe, everybody.
I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast. And if you would like to email us, you can do so at historyteacherspodcast@gmail.com.